Hi there and welcome to another video. Thanks for joining me. This is a relatively short synopsis of my second ever race weekend from the fantastic circuit of Anglesey in North Wales. Quite a long drive up there. I live in South Wales, but we've got to dive across to England, up the M5, M6 and then across the top of Wales to get to Anglesey circuit. I spent the Friday testing, and this is me diving out for a very, very weak quali session. Speaking quite frankly, the track was very, very wet. I wasn't sure how to set the car up properly. Biggest issue I had was not understanding tyre pressures correctly, and I got out there and I was just totally awash, and it wasn't happening. You can see here, you know, mega corrections. That's one of the fastest parts of the circuit, and just not very confidence inspiring when the car's not working properly for you. So qualifying was a bit of an embarrassment. I was miles off the pace. Somehow managed to out-qualify two people, which was a total shock. Plus I was trying to run my fuel levels down. I missed one of the test sessions because I had to fit some new tyres, which takes quite a lot longer than it does on telly. And I had fueled the car for 4 test sessions and only did 3, so I had a whole lot of fuel. So I didn't put any in for quali. I just wanted to run the fuel level really low. But fuel warning light came on with still about 5 or 6 minutes of qualifying to go, and I was just feeling like a noob and driving very badly, so I stopped. So going to straight to the start of race 1, I'm 12th on the grid out of 14 runners in Super Series. The Super Cup grid is ahead of us with two lanes of space between us. They're in the same spec car, but they have a much more generous tyre allowance, so they're on fresh tyres for every race weekend, whereas we've got to last sort of 2 to 3 race weekends on the one set of tyres. So a bit of smoke there at the beginning. Turn 2 is always tricky here. And what I like to do in real life as well as in sim racing is just finish the first lap safely, avoid any carnage, and then see where I am and who I can fight. Tyre performance on these tyres evolves significantly over the race. I mean, lap 1 here saw a little bit of a kick of oversteer. That is a quick part of the course. It's probably requires the biggest balls, and the rears just let go a touch. Another couple of laps time, that won't be happening so much, and I'll be able to give it more beans through that section called Church. But already here on lap 1, life feels different to how it felt in the morning at qualifying. My car feels okay. I've made changes to tyre pressure, rear anti-roll bar and front and rear damper settings, and the car is feeling good. There's a lot more grip anyway on the track, but the car is feeling more suited to the grip levels. And I'm looking here and going, okay, great. I'm staying vaguely in touch with the pack, and this white car in front of me, I'm starting to be able to think about engaging in battle with that car, so potentially having a bit of a race of it, and that feels pretty good. So we're coming down the Tom Price straight here. We've got a straight, a hairpin, another straight, back up to the final turn, and I'm noticing here that I'm getting potentially a little bit better exit from that hairpin than the white car, so that's starting to make me feel a little bit ambitious. The final turn onto the pit straight, this morning in qualifying you absolutely could not touch the curbs. There's a big curb in the middle, it's a bit adverse camber, and there's a big curb on the outside, and you can see there I'm studiously avoiding that curb because a driver who I know quite well touched that curb, fought the oversteer and ended up in the pit wall in qualifying this morning. So you've just got to be quite cautious there. Now I put a little graphic up. I'm leaving the car in 3rd gear here because this is a fairly open turn, open enough to keep a few revs in 3rd, and I'm apexing mega late to get a really optimized exit speed. But between race 1 and race 2, a bloke who I know was chatting to me and said, Dave, you're shit into that hairpin. You need to be much more aggressive and also downshift into 2nd. And of course the reasoning was I wasn't allowing for the effect of the banking, which allowed me to be much more aggressive. Meanwhile, I'm closing on this white car and really starting to think I can have a bit of a go. The driver, being quite assertive on defence, is apexing very early, and that's compromising exit a little bit, and I'm getting a faster exit, and lo and behold I managed to pull up beside them in this complex and squeeze my car between them and the apex, and hurrah, I make my first ever racing overtake. The terrain is quite an impediment here. The entry to Tom Price Straight, it's quite adverse camber, and to get a good exit you need to apex quite late, and the tyres aren't fully in yet, and I have a bit of a moment there of oversteer which I have to correct, which has really compromised my speed onto the straight. Tom Price was a Welsh Formula 1 driver who actually lost his life in Kyalami. I think it was around 91 or maybe earlier than that. A terrible incident. A steward, a fire marshal, ran across the circuit to help somebody else and didn't look, and Tom Price drove into them at full speed, and the fire extinguisher killed him, and the marshal lost his life as well. So horrendous story, but that's Tom Price and the Tom Price Straight. Turn 1 here is quite deceptive. You've got to come in a bit gentler than you think and really get apex quite late, and then you can go full noise down into the hairpin, which you'll see again. It's called the banking actually. You'll see again I leave the car in third, focusing a lot on exit and getting a nice line on exit. But I learned for race 2 that I can be much more aggressive there. Now the white car actually hauls me in that little sector, but I tend to keep a bit of a gap as I'm managing to carry really good speed through Church. Now approaching Rocket turn. I was wondering why it was called Rocket, because it's not a fast turn at all, and somebody explained to me it's called Rocket because if you don't get it right you get fired off. So it's a big braking zone. Again, a bit of a late apex to get a nice bit of a squirt into this double right-hander, and you see the white car's on me and manages to pull up beside me between the two turns, and I think, no, not this one, but I miss third gear a little bit later in this section. But I managed to hold position. They're still on the outside, and I get a nice exit from the second right-hander in that complex, and we're back now into the entry to the Tom Price Straight. I'm apexing very late to get on full noise here and to get a good run on the straight, and my car is relatively strong on the straight, so I'm able to be pretty confident that I can get a good speed and take my line into the hairpin. I'm getting good exits here, and I start accelerating hard up towards the final corner of the lap. You can see here obviously from the front view that I've lost contact with the main train, if you like, the main pack. I still haven't quite got the pace required to catch those guys in clear air, and the little bit of a fight we've been having has probably dropped us off the pack a little bit. But the white car is really very much on my gearbox. You'll see in the rear view mirror here I do have a rear facing camera, but unfortunately through a noob error I hadn't cleared the memory, hadn't cleared the SD card, so my rear facing camera was capturing absolutely nothing. There's the white car there in the rear view, still feeling very ambitious, and in fact that driver's fastest lap in this race was about a quarter of a second quicker than my fastest lap. So they had the pace on me, and they were certainly still wanting to fight and wanting to push hard and get this position back. Little technical anecdote, in this race, when the car started to let go, it was the rears that let go. So what I started to do was try to protect the rears a bit by moving the brake bias forward, but unfortunately I got a couple of lockups by simply moving the brake bias forward too aggressively in my efforts to take a bit of heat and take a bit of wear out of the rears and prolong their life. I'm usually pretty safe from here on in, but the white car was getting close to me on the bankings. So what I did for race 2, which I don't have on camera because the same mistake I made for the rear facing camera came home to bite me in the second race from the front facing camera, and I have no footage of it. I think I've got the first 2 laps. But what I started to do was protect the rears a bit with a little bit less aggressive downshifting. See, here in race 1 I'm using quite a lot of engine braking. Now of course that's engine braking is transferred through the rear tyres. It heats them up. So if you want to protect your rears, apart from brake bias, the other trick is to not be quite as aggressive with the engine braking. So I'm letting the revs drop about another 1000 RPM just with hard braking, and then only selecting the, in race 2 I started just selecting the downshift with the revs slightly lower to protect the rears a bit. So the white car's here well and truly having another go at me, and I've got a rear view mirror full of that car, and I'm second guessing where they're going to go in the braking zone. The driver tends to only attack down the inside, and there they go, but that can compromise your exit. So I'm still in the fight on the exit from the hairpin between the Tom Price straight and the back straight, the old pit straight actually, by virtue of having a little bit better exit. But I think they might come back. Yeah, she'd come back at me here. It's a young lady actually. She's come back at me here, and I just decided discretion was the better part of valour, and didn't feel there were 2 lines onto the pit straight. I've been a bit conservative onto that pit straight, just knowing that just one side of the car, one set of wheels onto that curbing, and it's over. You're in a big spin, and with any luck at all, with any bad luck at all, you end up in the pit wall. Now the nice thing about this type of racing that you might have picked up on is that, okay, the main pack has dropped us. They're probably 10 seconds up the road, the back of the main pack. But here we are, we're 2 cars fighting over 12th position, I think. Yeah, 12th position we're fighting over. And it just goes to show that saying it just doesn't matter where you are on track. If you're near another car, you're racing, and I'm racing this white car, doing everything I can to try to gain the upper hand again. And we had a ball. We got out of the car, out of both cars in Parc Fermé with big smiles, shook hands and said, "Hey, great fight." And I said, "Yeah, I'm coming for you tomorrow," because this is Saturday afternoon. We've got 2 races coming up on the Sunday. And what happened on the Sunday was just using a little bit of that knowledge of the stuff I've been talking about lines and about looking after the rear tyres. I came out a lot more racy. I got that advice about the banking. I managed to protect my rear tyres, managed to really focus on exit speed, and there's a hint of it there. I come up to compete pretty strongly for the final corner, having got a better exit. Anyway, race 2 and race 3, I came out on top, and my lap times were about a second quicker than the white car, which started to have a little bit of an oversteer problem. So I started to throw I wish I could show this to you on camera, because I finished the race thinking that's going to make an awesome video. What an idiot I am for filling the memory. But having noticed a bit of an oversteer issue occurring with the white car, I started to sort of feint to the inside a bit in braking zones. This is in the next race, which I can't show you. And the white car was defending really hard, and as a result having to really gun it in second gear and exiting a lot of these slow corners, which compounded the oversteer issue. And the white car's rear tyres went away, and had a couple of massive moments. And so we exchanged the lead probably 3 or 4 times in race 2 in our little battle, but I came out on top and pulled a bit of a gap. And it was a similar story in race 3. They'd rectified the setup issue, so that the white car's tyres didn't go away, but I was able to push them hard enough into a couple of errors, and the car ended up attacking me and spinning off track a couple of times. So the duel went 2-1 in my favour by the end, and I had some fantastic statistics to share with you. So compared to my first ever race weekend last October in Donington, where my best lap was 4.2 seconds off the winner's best lap, I converted that to percent because they're different track lengths. It was 5% off the winner. And here in Anglesey, much longer lap, I was 3.9 seconds off the winner, but that because of the increase in track length, that brings that down to a 3.7% gap in best lap time. And equally importantly, in terms of finishing place, my best race in Donington, I was a minute 19 behind the winner. They're 20-minute races, whereas here in Anglesey, in race 3, race 2 doesn't count because we had a safety car that compressed the field again, but race 3 was a clean race. I was 38 seconds behind the winner, so that means I was on the same sector and the same lap as the winner of the event. So I was pretty thrilled. I think they're nice improvements to have, and to think, okay, now I'm now 33 seconds behind the winner of this event. If I can find another second a lap, I'm going to be 20 seconds behind the winner and well and truly in the fight. So these aren't headline grabbing achievements, but when you're out there racing for your first ever season, it feels fantastic. And I want to thank the paddock in MX5 Superseries, because a lot of the teams are really friendly. I had guys running professional teams coming over and sort of metaphorically putting their arms around my shoulder and saying, what are you doing with tyre pressures? What are you doing with anti-roll bars? And we had some good conversations about that stuff. And I was able to improve the car. And with that comes confidence, with that comes pace, and you're starting to think about attacking the car in front rather than just making it around the circuit. So the rest of this race just kind of finishes, as you see here, the white cars in front of me, managing to hold the gap. I don't manage to pull any fantastic moves or erode the gap significantly. So we finished in that order. I think I was 3.8 seconds down the road at the end of the race. But I was racing and I knew I could attack this car in the following 2 events, and I attacked them and I prevailed in the following 2 events and improved my performance over race distance significantly. So thank you very, very much for taking interest in sharing my incredible weekend in Anglesey. I had a ball. It's an amazing track in the dry. I don't like it in the wet. Maybe I will one day. It was incredible seeing the top guys coming past me and qualifying in the wet. Their car control, their speed, their aggression. Yeah, I'm not there yet. But in the dry, I'm getting there, and I had a fantastic time in MX5 Superseries. So thank you for watching and listening. Hope to have something interesting for you again after the next round, and I hope that my viewers on the Sim Racers Performance Guide series find some of that conversation interesting. Thank you. I'll sign out now.